I never imagined I'd find myself standing outside a cheap roadside motel in the middle of nowhere at 11 p.m., staring at a dimly lit room where my wife, Harper, had chosen to spend her evening. I had been married to Harper for 8 years. She was charming, witty, and the type of woman everyone thought I was lucky to have. For the first few years, she matched my pace, laughed at my jokes, cared about my day, and somehow made me feel like I'd won the lottery every single morning when she smiled at me. But somewhere along the way, the laughter faded. Subtle at first, almost imperceptible. She'd shrug off my compliments, roll her eyes when I suggested dinner plans, and spend hours on her phone, texting someone I didn't know. I didn't want to believe the truth. I told myself stress, work, or maybe even exhaustion from life's routine could explain the distance. I tried to be patient, tried to give her space, but the cold shoulder became colder with each passing day. I started noticing little things, a perfume scent I didn't recognize, whispered conversations ending abruptly whenever I entered a room, the way she would delete messages just before I could see them. My gut told me something was wrong. I confronted her once, casually, hoping for honesty. She laughed it off, said I was paranoid, called me insecure. That answer didn't settle me. If anything, it confirmed what I already feared. A few nights ago, I saw a notification pop up on her phone while it lay unlocked on the kitchen counter. I don't usually snoop, but curiosity and a knot in my stomach got the better of me. A series of messages with a man named Damien. I skimmed through the conversation and felt a weight settle on my chest. It wasn't just flirting, plans had been made. She was going to meet him in person, hours away from home. My heart pounded, but somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't sit and let this happen without confronting it myself. I drove for 2 hours, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. The closer I got, the quieter my mind became. No angry thoughts, no shouting at her for the betrayal, just a hollow clarity that this was something I needed to see with my own eyes. When I pulled into the motel parking lot, my headlights illuminated a red sedan parked crookedly. Harper stepped out, laughing, clearly unaware that I was watching. Damien followed, his arm casually draped over her shoulder, a smug grin on his face. I stayed hidden for a moment, taking it all in. The truth was worse than I imagined, yet also freeing. All the doubts, the anxious nights, the moments where I questioned my own worth, they suddenly made sense. I realized she had stopped seeing me as her partner long ago, maybe years ago. She didn't just stop loving me. She had been searching elsewhere while I was still trying to hold the pieces of our marriage together. I walked toward the motel quietly. My steps were measured, calm, almost deliberate. I didn't want a scene. I wasn't going to yell, plead, or beg. That version of me had already disappeared months ago. Harper noticed me only when I was a few feet from the entrance. Her eyes widened, a mix of guilt and panic flashing across her face. Damien froze, his grin fading into confusion. "Ethan," Harper said, her voice shaking. She wasn't expecting me. "Hi, Harper," I replied evenly. No inflection, no accusation in my tone. Just a simple acknowledgement of the situation. Damien cleared his throat, trying to assert some kind of authority over a scenario he clearly didn't understand. "Look, man, I held up a hand. "I don't need to hear it." Harper stepped forward, reaching out, as if she could explain her way out. I didn't move. I just stood there, letting her words hang in the air. She stammered, trying to justify herself, saying it wasn't real, that it was a mistake, that she had been lonely. Every excuse she offered only confirmed the truth I already knew. I had been invisible to her for too long, and now she had made her choice clear. I didn't shout. I didn't call her names. I simply said, "You made your choice." My voice was steady, calm, but heavy. I could feel the silence pressing down on the three of us, a silence that said more than any argument ever could. I turned, walked past Damien, whose mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, and left. I didn't wait for questions. I didn't wait for apologies. The weight of years of betrayal, neglect, and emotional distance had finally settled into a kind of clarity. Driving home, I felt an unusual mix of emptiness and relief. For months, I had carried a burden that wasn't mine alone. I had tried to resuscitate a marriage that was already dead, hoping that love could be reminded of itself through effort, kindness, and patience. But love isn't a project. It isn't a favor you give in hopes of it returning. Love requires mutual presence, and when that stops, nothing else matters. I parked outside the house, but I didn't go in. I sat in my car, letting the night air cool my face. No anger, no screaming, no dramatic confrontations. Just stillness. I thought about Harper, about all the moments I had tried to make her feel valued, the dinners I had cooked, the late nights where I stayed awake listening to her talk about her day, the bills I had paid, the small gestures I thought kept us connected. None of that mattered anymore. And for the first time, I realized it didn't have to. I didn't know what the next day would bring, or the week after that. There would be conversations, maybe lawyers, maybe heated arguments. But in that moment, I felt an unusual calmness, a strange kind of freedom. I understood something fundamental. I had given my love fully, honestly, and with everything I had. Harper had chosen otherwise, and that was her decision, not mine. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to breathe without the tension that had lived in my chest for years. I felt present, aware, and unburdened. Betrayal was a bitter pill, but clarity was sweeter than I had imagined. I didn't have to fix her, convince her, or fight for something that had never truly been mine to begin with. I thought about the future, not with Harper, but with myself. About the things I had neglected because I had invested so much energy in a love that had already left. About friends I hadn't seen in months, hobbies I had put aside, and goals I had postponed for the sake of a marriage that had stopped existing in all but name. And for the first time, I allowed myself to think about pursuing those things without guilt or shame. By the time I finally went inside my apartment, it was past midnight. I sat at the kitchen table, alone, with nothing but a cup of coffee and my thoughts. The room felt different somehow, emptier but also lighter. I wasn't running from pain or conflict. I was simply acknowledging the truth. Harper had made her choice. I had made mine, and that was enough. There would be healing to do, and there would be scars left behind. But for the first time, I felt like I could approach the coming days with clarity and dignity, unburdened by the weight of someone else's choices. I hadn't lost myself in this betrayal. I had found a new kind of strength, a quiet, steady force that didn't depend on her approval or affection. I could move forward, unshaken, and finally free.